Hey everyone, thank you very much for coming through to this workshop. Like Beth said, I'm Dwane. I'm a JavaScript developer advocate here at Vonage, and we're going to get started with Voice and the JavaScript Client SDK, which is the thing that I kind of handle around at Vonage. Great. So now I put in parentheses, as I understand it, July 2021, because anybody that has done anything on the web, it's always changing. So I just want to kind of say, hey, this is where I understand it as of this moment in time. It may change in the future, but that's the great thing about technology. It's always changing, getting better, and gives us an opportunity to learn more. All right, so quick disclaimer, headphones. So we'll need headphones, or you may get feedback, and not the good kind. At least not the kind that I'm looking for. All right, so cool. So if you can, please go ahead and get some headphones, because things will start feeding back and it'll be horrible. All right. Now, I want to kind of talk about what I hope comes out of this workshop. Hopefully, an understanding of key concepts you'll see throughout the documentation as you dive deeper into the Vonage offerings, later on, hopefully, if you enjoy what's happening so far. Also, want to demonstrate the concepts that we're going to talk about in action with some demo applications. So we'll see that a little bit later. And then hopefully, and this is what always makes me feel great, is that hopefully it can spark some ideas for your own applications that you want to build. And we're here to help out with that. Now, what we're not going to do is watch me struggle with typos. So, like I said, this is mostly about gaining a good understanding and a grasp of the key concepts so that you'll be able to take these demos and bring it even further, kind of thing. So with your own applications. So this is just kind of like the starter. Hopefully you understand it, and then you can elevate it to your own needs, and we're always here to help you with that. So, all right. Thanks everybody for being in the chat room. It's really cool. While we're going through this, please let me know. I see some folks from India, so please let us know where you're coming in from in the chat. All right, so now, since I live in Florida, Orlando, Florida specifically, I thought I would try to explain some concepts using what we're most known for, and that's amusement theme parks. So welcome to Vonage Land, a magical place where we Vonage give you the space to build amazing things using our resources and infrastructure. So now to start building, you'll need a developer account. Think of it kind of like a license to build on our thing. So to start building, we just got it. So I believe some of you have already been through some workshops, but if not, you'll need an account. Or if you have been and you already have an account, you need to sign in. So if everyone could go to dashboard.nextmode.com, I believe we'll put that into the chat as well. So you can just click the link. And then I guess we'll give it 5 minutes. And then when everybody has an account, just please give a thumbs up and we can get started. Or how does that sound? Give 5 minutes. Let me know in the chat. Or you're already good. Let me know. I don't know if there's a delay or something. So we'll give it 5 minutes. And then, like Beth mentioned, I like to build random things. So I actually created, let me stop sharing here. And so I can share the audio of it right here. So like Beth said, I create random projects. And it's things that are helpful for me and, in my life. So I actually created a website that is kind of like a Pomodoro count, and it's like a countdown timer, to-do list, all these things. Pretty cool. And it's a hiphoptimer.com, because like Beth said, again, I'm big into hip hop. So we'll give it 5 minutes. And did the chat just become disabled for everyone, or is it just me? All right, 5 minutes and we'll figure this out. All right, so thanks. 5 minutes on the board. Alrighty, so hopefully that was enough time for folks to be able to check everything out. So hopefully you see this now, something similar to this. And thanks for everybody that was commenting on the hiphoptimer.com. Hopefully it finds people also who like that kind of thing, can check it out as well. So I built it for myself, but it's awesome that other people, like it as well. So hiphoptimer.com. Shameless plug. Sorry. All right. Now, Katie, let me see. Not sure. Okay, cool. So hopefully everyone is good with hopefully it's somewhere similar to what's happening here on the screen. Hopefully you're seeing the same thing in your browser. Now to help you start building, we're going to give you some credits. So, before that though, you notice I have right here, keep note of that. That's your API key and your API secret. We'll need that later. So kind of take note of that. So just take a mental note. You'll be coming back here for that later a few times. All right. So like I said, we're going to give you some money to some credits to kind of get started building. And so we're going to give the code in the chat room. And then let me show you. You can get to, if you click on your name, and then in the drop-down menu, you'll see coupons. And then also Beth put the link directly to the coupons page. So go ahead and you'll be able to redeem some coupons so you can get started building with some things. And let us know, please, yes, if you have any issues. Feel free to, direct message Bethany. So she'll be able to help you out with that. All right, cool. So now, cool. So congratulations. You now have your account and some credits to get started building. To help you with the building process, Vonage has a resource that you can refer to if you ever need help. And that is developer.nextmode.com. So you see at the beginning of that part there. And so all our little parts will be starting with developer.nextmode.com. That's where all our docs are. Great. So now let's get started with some of the key concepts. First, everything kind of starts off with the applications. Now, as a developer, you'll be building applications. And in our amusement park theme scenario, you can think of them kind of like your attractions. So the cool experiences for your users to enjoy, built with some Vonage tools and infrastructure. We'll be going over some demo applications that use the voice API and the client SDK and server SDK. All right, so I just mentioned it, APIs. Now you can think of APIs as the infrastructure or services Vonage offers to you, the developers, to build cool experiences for your users to enjoy. Oh, you know what? Let me, I'm going to go to the actual, I forgot, I think I made these links. So I want to show you where in the actual site. Yeah, here we go. It actually worked. Awesome. So here's the application page. So when you go to the site, this is what you'll see. And you can see here, this is your web application. So think of this as your like attraction. Let me try to make this bigger. And then and this is where you'll be building. This is all our stuff that we handle for you behind the scenes. And so I just kind of wanted to show you that this is what you'll be working on. And then this is the infrastructure and services that will offer to you so you can build your cool attraction or application. All right, cool. Does this? Oh, it actually went back to the thing. Cool. All right. Now the APIs. Let's take a look at the APIs. Oh no, that didn't do it. Hold on. Nope, that didn't work. Let me just go to. Give me a second here. I got it over here. Okay. Oh, what's happening? See, so imagine if I was to actually like write out code. This would be so much worse. All right. So let's take a look at the APIs. So now Vonage offers a wide range of services that you can use to build your applications. So for example, we have messaging. So the messages API, they're for things like if you want to send SMS, multimedia messages, if you want to send Facebook messages, WhatsApp, Viber, so many more things that you can send with the messages API. That's pretty cool. We have the voice, which is what we're going to be going over today. And a lot of these we will be talking about webhooks, the NCCO, a lot of cool stuff. So you can see here's some of the WhatsApp stuff. If you want to get numbers, insights, we help with like verify with like two-factor authentication. That's cool. So some more security stuff. we offer all sorts of goodness. So be able to check out the API and maybe build something on top of those. But today, we're going to go over the voice API. All righty. Next, all right, so I also mentioned the client and server SDK. And now you can think of these as, because at Vonage, we speak many languages. And we provide the SDKs or tools that will help you communicate with Vonage's infrastructure in your preferred language. So let's take a look at that page. And please, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know and just let us know in the chat room as well. All right, so now whether your preferred language is Android, iOS, or like today, JavaScript, we have client SDKs for you to be able to build on the client side. So for like JavaScript within the browser. But there are a few things they may need to do in the server. So we also offer SDKs for that. And so as you can see, we have Ruby, .NET. Node is what we'll be using today because, again, JavaScript, PHP, Python, Java. So let me know in the chat what your favorite, what your preferred language is, what you build in. And then we also have other tools such as the Nextmost CLI. And this allows you to kind of build things in your locally on your machine. So a lot of this stuff you can like the different functions, like creating applications and such, you can do that locally on your machine. So SI says JS, nice, glad to hear. And then we have different frameworks libraries, so like Laravel, Rails, and Spring Boot. So you can also get started. So we offer a wide range of different tools to help you get started. And of course, you could always, if you want to just make calls directly to the endpoints, you can do that as well. We speak curl as well. So you can do that also. All right, great. So now we spoke about the SDKs. Again, those are like the kind of like the training manual on how to speak with Vonage's infrastructure, pretty much. And we have them in all sorts of languages. All right, cool. Next, we have webhooks. And now webhooks are pretty awesome. So now for the amazing attraction or application that you'll be building, Vonage offers a pretty cool feature. And this is, I always find webhooks kind of awesome. So webhooks. So let's say you send a task to one of Vonage's many services that may take a while, right? So instead of always repeatedly asking the Vonage service, hey, is that ready yet? Or how about now? Is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? Vonage will send you a message with the information when it's ready, which is pretty cool. So so that your application that way can continue working on other tasks. And it's kind of cool. Webhooks are amazing. So let's take a look at that because we also explain it because we want people to be able to use it. And so we have like information that kind of explains it in a little diagram here. So your app will let Vonage know, hey, whenever you're done doing that thing I asked you to do, let us know. So then we're going to send back some interesting data when that's done. Make that bigger a little. And then you let us know that you got it by sending a 200 OK message saying, hey, I got it. Thanks. So yeah, webhooks are super underrated. And anytime I can find like an API or a service that has webhooks, it makes my life so much easier. So, oh, do we have some people saying yes? As far as how many fans of webhooks do we have? Hopefully a lot. Hopefully more after this. You can see the greatness that are webhooks. All right. So now, when we send, when Vonage, okay. So now we talked about webhooks. Let me go over here to. So now let's talk about the NCCO. So since we will be using the voice API in our demo applications today, there's a special set of instructions that you can use to let Vonage know what steps it needs to take to work with your application. So like I said, there's when Vonage hits your endpoint, it's like, hey, what do you want me to do? You send your NCCO back to Vonage so that it understands, oh, you want me to do this? I got it. I'm going ahead and do this. And I'll let you know when I'm done with that. And more instructions, if anything. Great. So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to show you some of the examples of some of the instructions that you can send to Vonage. And it's pretty cool. So like I said, this is for the voice API. So it deals with things voice related. So for example, when we make the phone call, either from the browser to a phone or from a phone to a browser, we need to let the Vonage service, the voice API know, all right, I need you to either connect it to this number or send it to this user kind of thing. So as you can see, here are some of the actions. So you can actually record all or part of a call. You can do a conversation, which is kind of like a conference call. So you can add a bunch of people to it and they'll be able to hear each other, depending, again, on your instructions. Because you could have it to where people could only listen. So maybe it's like a conference call where it's like a speaker, one speaker. So you can do something like that, or you can have one where everybody kind of talks. You can have like moderators and things of that nature. And then this is cool. You'll hear this later, but the talk, it creates like a synthesized speech. So like text to speech. So it's cool. And you can like do different voices. It's wild. You can actually stream audio into the calls as well. So if you have like an MP3 or a WAV file, you can play that into the call. And then also, let's say a user calls into your application. You can actually, with the input, you can say, hey, press 1 for this department, press 2 to speak to this person, 3 to leave a message kind of thing. And then the notify lets you send a request for your application to track the progress through. And so it kind of lets you know, all right, we're at this point, we're at this point, we're at this point. And then we have all the different snippets for you to actually send those. So NCCO SI it stands for the Nexmo call control object. And with that, especially for the voice API, we may have it for other things, but for right now, it's for the voice API only. And it lets Vonage know what you want us to do with your voice application. And we'll see that more later on. Like I'll actually have in the code in our applications, you'll actually see it. And you'll be able to see the steps happen from the NCCO. So it's going to be cool. So stick around for that. But great question. We'll be seeing that more. So, and thank you, Kit, for posting that link. All right. So cool. So again, if you have any questions, thank you, SI, for the great question. Any more, please let me know. All right, cool. Now, I have way too many monitors open. All right. So now that your attraction is ready and open for the public, all you need now are the visitors or users of your application. So you can think of users as the users of your application. And I want to show you that into the documentation as well, just so you can so that is nothing new to you when you actually go to it. I don't want any surprises. Like I said, I want you to be as comfortable and see as much of it before you go in and dive headfirst into it to build your own stuff. So like I said, here's the information of the users. It's just the person that's using your application. And it's a unique person that's using your application or your attraction in our scenario. All right. All right, so now here at Vonage, we just don't let any users run wild all over our theme park. So now as a developer, you give your users kind of like passes to any Vonage services your application uses. These are known as JWTs. So the JSON web tokens. So you can think of them as like passes. So when you go to a theme park, they give you a pass to allow you to be able to go on to the rides. Similar situation. And so you can actually set how long those passes are valid as well. And now for the access level, so whether it be like all access, backstage, all sorts of things, you can set that for the JWT. And to do that, you use the ACL, and that grants certain permissions. And so, so let me go to that page real quick, because we had a great question in the chat room that I want to talk about. But let me show you the JWTs and the ACL. For now, like I said, you'll be generating the JWTs. Again, they're kind of like the passes for your users to be able to do anything on our on your application. All right, so here we go. So this, here's like the expiration that I was telling you about before, that you can set that time. You have other things like the ACL will show that. Sub is the subject, is the actual identification of the person. The application ID, so your attraction ID in the Vonage system, so that we know what user is using what in what application. Kind of like what they're allowed to use, what application. The issue at time is like when it was issued. The JWT ID, so that it's every JWT has a certain ID, so we can cross match everything, all the information. And then, like I said, the expiration time. So here's kind of like what that looks like with all the different values. And now, as you can see here, we have this paths, that's the ACL. And these are all the different options and different permissions that you can present, that you can grant to the user. And so to kind of say what they are, so like sessions that you can log in as a user. So you give them access. So if you have that in your ACL, like we do here, that means that the user can log in to your application. Without it, they won't be able to. And then to be able to create users and manage users, we use that one. Conversations, same thing. You can also send images. So if you want your users to be able to send images, you can do that, or any media such as audio, you can do that as well. Knocking, which we'll need to start phone calls. We also do push notifications. So there's that. There's like the web, and there's like device push notifications. So like for Android, iOS. And then also for like applications, you need the push notification certificate in order to do the push notification. So you'll see applications, devices, and push kind of bundled together. And then legs are, we'll see that later, but those are all the different parts of the conversation that's happening. And so in the demo applications, I actually have like a log where you can see all the different things happening. So you can kind of get an appreciation of all of the stuff that's happening behind the scenes. Cool. So now that brings us there. So I'm thinking, what time? How much time? Okay, we've been going for about like 30. It's been a lot of information I've thrown at y'all, and so I'm thinking maybe we should take like a break, and kind of like collect ourselves, because up next we're gonna do all the demo stuff, which is gonna be cool. So maybe in this time, if you don't have headphones yet, please go ahead and get headphones if you can. And yeah, so we'll go to this question real quick that Bethany put in there. Now, we've had a great question about why we give out credits in euros as opposed to other currencies. Telecoms companies use the euro as a standard international currency. So we give out credit in euros to be in accordance to that. Now, the credit we give out can be applied to any account, no matter where you are. So that's cool, because that's why it's standardized. So that's why they use the euro. And that's why we use the euro to give credits. And you can top up your account in your own currency after that if you want to. So we'll start you off with euros. And then if you want to top off and add more, you can use your own currency and it'll just get converted into euros. And had another question, using Vonage API, is it free or does it cost some fees? So yes, yes, in order to use our system, there are small fees. And then the website, let me, I think we have a pricing page. Let me see if I can look that up. This one. But yeah, so let's say and what's cool is you can use your API and it will tell you how much you can get all that information, how much like a cost how much a call cost or to send a message from the API, which is pretty cool. And oh, yes, looked like Beth did it. So we have a link to that also. And I have another one here. It's just vonage.com/pricing. And so you can kind of see all the different kind of stuff here. And let me pull that up onto here. And so, yeah, so, and I believe the reports API, I think it is, you can actually pull all that stuff, information as well. And so, yeah, there you go. So, yeah, so there's, I think it's like per minute billing as far as phone calls, per message, I believe, for like text messages and things. And then for stuff like Facebook, I believe, and like WhatsApp, those are for like businesses. And so I believe Facebook charges for those things. So that factors into the pricing as well. And so, yeah, cool. And so, yeah, like SMS, there's the different fees for that and stuff. And it depends kind of like on where you are as well. So different countries charge differently. And so that website and the one that Beth put, let me actually bring that up on there too, since I'm sharing my screen. And so we can have that in the recording. And I just realized I was, I have a lot of monitors happening. And so I thought I got bamboozled into thinking that I was on the wrong monitor. All right, here we go. And so, yeah, here's another one. And then you can always reach out to us also to, come up with a plan as well. If you plan on using a lot of the service. All righty. So any other questions before we get into this break? Oh, this is a much better page than what I had. So yeah, definitely go to the one that Bethany put. How's everybody feeling so far? Everything okay? Get some thumbs up or going well? Everybody's kind of following along? Because like I said, I'm big on feedback. So I want to make sure everybody is kind of getting something from this that I'm hoping that you'll be able to get. But up next, so we're going to have a break. So for maybe like 10 minutes. How's that sound? 10 minutes, Bethany, about? Sounds good? Let me stop sharing. Sounds good. Cool. And so let me go back to the super that everybody seems to kind of like page. Cool. Again, shameless plug, hiphoptimer.com. There's like a Pomodoro. You know what? Let me, while I'm shamelessly plugging things, let me just show you all the stuff here. Since I have your attention. All right. So when you go to hiphoptimer.com, you agree with this. And the background changes to like serene kind of like landscape stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool. And so we have the clock. Oh, again, I clicked on the wrong screen. Yeah, it's a long day. And so we have that, and it tells your local time, which is kind of cool. All right, then we got that. The countdown was what we were using previously. And then Pomodoro, where you can actually put in. Now, all this stuff is stored locally. All your to-dos and things are stored locally. And yeah, so it stays on your browser. So I don't see any of that stuff. So, and like Beth said, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know in the chat room. But for right now, let's go ahead and take a break. And thank you all once again for hanging out. When we come back, we'll have demos. It'll be demo time. All right. Thanks again. And we'll see you soon. All right. Thanks. Thanks, y'all. All righty. We're back. Hope everyone had a good break. Yeah. So again, please let us know how everything is going. Getting big on feedback. So I'm assuming no questions. So I'm going to assume everything is going great. So thanks everybody for hanging out. So we kind of went over some of the concepts that we need to kind of be able to understand what's happening at a higher level. So now we're going to actually dive into some code and so that we can actually see it in action. Okay, so this is my favorite part of it. So let me share my screen. Let me, here we go. Cool. All righty. Show my screen. I have way too many screens to be like sharing stuff. Here we go. All right, so this is where we left off, talking about the JWTs and the ACLs. Again, those are kind of like the pass and the permissions that you can grant to a user to be able to use your application. All right, so here we go. Now, like I said, we're going to go through some demos. There's 3 demos, and they're all hosted on Glitch. Now, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with glitch.com, but I like using Glitch because it helps ensure we are all starting from the same place without having to worry about operating systems, different code editors, and or if your local environments are set up properly. So this way, everything we hope everything to work on the web. So it's not just, hey, it works on my machine, but we're all starting from the web and all starting from the same point of reference. Cool. So let's get started with the first one. Where is my mouse? Here we go. Oh, here we go. So we're going to start off with the app to app. And so we're going to make voice calls between browsers, which is super cool. So I figured this one is a little bit, it's a good place to kind of start because we're not worrying about like phones and numbers and everything yet. It's just a voice call between 2 browsers. So it's a good starting place. So let me get the, so now what I'm going to paste in the chat room is a link to remix the project so that you'll be starting from jump. So here we go. So I just posted a link there. Now that will hopefully open up to a page once it's finished building that looks similar to this. And so I'll give it a couple minutes. If you do it, please say, hey, done or ready or something in the chat so that I can kind of know to move forward. I don't want to leave anyone behind. We got enough time, so I kind of want to make sure everybody is following along if possible, if you want to. Going to wait a couple of more seconds. All right. So now, you know what? Let me, I'm going to create one, a new one, just so y'all can see as well. Let me see here. We can actually see the process because we want to do this 2 more times for every other project. So at least this way, we're starting from a project that works. And so you'll be able to actually dive into the code and look through it yourself. So just created a remix project. Now, what you'll see here is actually kind of spinning up everything and getting all the different dependencies that are needed. Normally, you'll be doing this if you wanted to in your local machine. And you can see right here, it says I have a link to the tutorial on developer.nextmode.com that actually shows you how to do it like locally. So if you prefer to do it locally on your own machine, that will step you through on how to do that as well. So, but for right now, I kind of wanted to since it's a workshop and I want to get everybody kind of like just familiar with the different concepts and how things work, you'll be able to go through that. Now, as you notice here, there's an error here. Now, the reason why there's the error, if you check out the README that's here, it says that to get started, we need to go to Tools. Oh, If you see me clicking on something, it's because I thought that thing was there. Hold on. Oh, here we go. Here we go. And then go to terminal. Did I click terminal? No, it moved on me. Now that loads up the terminal in Glitch. And here we're going to type in, I created a setup script that will allow all the same stuff that you do in the tutorial locally. It will do it all for you. You just enter in some of the information, and then it will create all the stuff that you need for this demo application. And so we type in node setup.js. If I could again, see, this is why I don't do live coding. My typing is horrible. And so this will go ahead and ask you for your different credentials, like your API key, your API secret, which again, if you remember, is right there in your dashboard. So if you go to dashboard.nexmo.com again, you'll be able to find it there. Ooh, it's hot in Florida. All right. And then from there, you'll enter in your API key, your API secret. You give it a name for your application. So name it something that you'll remember. So maybe like Vonage Unlocked app to app, maybe. And then that'll be it, I believe. Just answer all the different things and it will create a project for you, and then it'll just start to work. Let me know again if anybody's have any issues. Please let me know in the chat room if you have any questions. I just realized there's an actual Q&A, so I was kind of missing out stuff there. But yeah, so I guess either in the Q&A or the chat, please let us know how it's going. Okay, gonna assume everything is going okay. Again, if you have any issues, please let me know. All right, so we're gonna go back to this one. Now, so let's actually go ahead and try it. So in order to try it, as you can see here, remember, when you're done, click to type in refresh into the terminal. So in your terminal, once you enter in all the information, make sure to type refresh. And now restart the server with all the new credentials that you just entered. And so everything the app status should be okay, and there should be no error in tools. If you don't have that, please let us know in the chat, or I guess Q&A or something, please. All right. I'm going to assume everything is just going swimmingly. All right. So now we're going to demo the application. Oh, under show, open a new window. Now, what we're going to do is, like I said, we need users. And so we're going to enter in a user. I like to always kind of go with Alice. Full name. Press enter. Now, behind the scenes, what's happening is that we just added Alice as a user of our application. We got a JWT that lets Alice be able to access the application and do things like making a call to another web user. So you can see here so there's 2 pages. We'll see that in the code. So now next we need to go to receive. So you just click that. It opens in a new tab. And now we're going to enter in another user. Let's go with Bob. That's a good, strong name. Now, here we are. We have Bob's page and we have Alice's page. Let me see if I can make these side by side. How would I do that? I think I can. Can I do this? Oh, no, I cannot do that. I think that did it. Sure. So now you see it side by side. On the left is Alice. On the right is Bob. So now what we want to do is remember, every user is an individual. So the way I ensure that is that I just add a timestamp on when that person entered, became a user of the application. So remember, every user has to be unique. So every username needs to be unique, right? So that's why you see like Bob dash a long number. That's just to help ensure that everyone has a unique identifier. So what you'll do is take that, and then we're going to put that into here. Now, unfortunately, I don't think you'll be able to hear anything because I wasn't able to share this screen. Hold on. No, because I can only share the audio on the tab level, so that's not going to help. Well, if you're following along, you should be able to do the same thing as well. So hopefully it'll work for you. And remember, headphones, because you'll get feedback. All right, so then we hit call. Pressing call. And I have in my ear, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a text-to-speech that says, please wait while we connect you to Bob. And then as you can see right here, we're saying an inbound call app. The status has changed. We're going to click to answer. Make sure I'm on the right thing here. And then you notice these logs. We'll go through these logs a little bit later once we're done. And then hit answer. Hello. So I'm hearing myself double. And this is the reason why when you're working with the voice API, you want to have headphones on. Otherwise, it will feed through your computer's speakers to the microphone and cause a feedback loop. So that's the warning. All right. So I'm tired of hearing myself multiple times. So I'm going to hang up. Now you notice the call status is answered. Before it was saying it was an inbound app and to answer. Same thing here. Call status answered. So I'm going to hang up now. As you can see, call status became completed on both ends. And then the button changed to call, and then that one became disabled because we can't answer a call if we don't have one. Now, this is what's I really like here. So this is different from the tutorial. I added this because I'm a big fan of like console logging everything. So instead of having to open up the inspector tool, I just created a section for all the different logs to kind of see what's happening behind the scenes. Because if you're like me, you kind of like want to be able to see all the things that are happening behind the scenes. So let's take a quick look at that before we start looking at the code. So now here's the first one. As you can see, there's no start time, headers, and the rate is again how much you're going to be charged, and we'll see that later. So from null. So I believe null is kind of like the system. So the system doesn't have like a name, so it's like Vonage. So this is a message to Alice, who started the connection, the call. And so this is just sending a message to Alice saying, all right, cool. We're starting it with you. And then notice this UUID. That's basically like the leg. And so, so notice this ID. Just kind of keep that in mind. And here's the conversation that's happening behind the scenes. And then you can see the status was answered because Alice is the one who started it. So it becomes automatically answered. And you see the direction was inbound. So it's from the system coming to Alice and it was answered. So it's starting there. Up next. Now, some of these are like double because they happen so quickly because you can see they have the same time stamp. So it's just kind of like a repeat, but like a little bit less information. See, this one doesn't have the rate on there. So, or the start time and stuff like that. Cool. But then you can see like the status changed to started. So again, from null. So it just became started because you're the one who started it. Alice was the one who started it. And the next, same thing because it's the same timestamp. Same thing. Here we go. Now, here we go. This is cool. So now, see, it was from null to Alice. So that's one connection. So you see the leg there. As you can see, 0A9, 0A9, 0A9. So all that is what was happening with just from the system to Alice. So that's the one leg. And the conversation is 98F, right? But now when we start bringing in Bob, notice that it's EC4. So that's a totally different connection. So this is from Alice to Bob. It's a whole nother leg, like a whole nother connection. But as you can see it's the same conversation though. So all these different legs that are happening within one big conversation. And that's how we can kind of keep track of everything. Cool. So that's what, to me, this is kind of fascinating to kind of see how everything's happening, how everything's kind of structured. So you see the same conversation, but different legs. So from the system to Alice, from Alice to Bob. And then all these other ones will have, if it's from Alice to Bob, we'll have the same EC4. So now this was started. And this is when you saw that, oh, hey, you have an incoming call. Go ahead and answer that, or what have you. Right? That was happening over here. And then when it was answered, then we set it to answered. That same connection between Alice and Bob. All right, and then it kind of goes on. I think a lot of these are probably just the same. Then it was started, answered, outbound. So now this one is saying, all right, cool. So from Alice to Bob, it was answered, it was started, and then it was answered, outbound. Because remember before the other one was inbound. And then, then duration. So I believe this is when it was stopped. So you can see here, it was 45 seconds. The UUID, yes, you have one for the inbound and outbound, and also for the person that's connecting. So from and to. So yeah, thank you, Kit. So yes, so the UUID is unique to the direction of the call and also to who is connecting as well. So there's a lot of different legs that are happening at once. It's kind of amazing. So sometimes I like to use the client SDK when I'm transferring a call because trying to track down all those unique to send kind of gets to be a lot. So that's why we offer the SDKs to be able to kind of abstract a lot of that heavy lifting from you all. But great question, Kit. And yeah, so here we go. Again, I'm on the wrong thing. All right. Oh, my computer's slowing down. Okay, so here's all the conversation stuff again. No, this is actually coming from the RTC, the event hook. And so we can talk about that as well. The answer only is for the initial connection. And then we have all these events that happen behind the scenes. And I'll show you, that's a great question. I'll show you that in the code that's coming up. And then as you can see, we have the completed. And again, you see all the rates and stuff. I keep scrolling on the screen share and not the actual thing here. All right, is that it? Or is my computer just going super slow? I think that's it. Oh, no, there's more. My computer's just very slow right now. So let's take a look at the last one. Eventually. Okay, open. Oh, I closed it again. Okay, give it a second. Here we go. All right, and then you can see here, duration again, 75 seconds. The rate, I think the thing is, since I'm using my Vonage account, I don't think I'm getting charged, I believe. That's why that says that, and it gives you the price. So like we were saying before, it tells you how much things cost. And so yeah, so then you can see this is from null. So from the system to Alice, just to kind of end everything, so completed, and then it just stops. So this is some of the information that you get from behind the scenes, which I think is pretty cool. All right, great. Now let's take a look at some code, if my computer will allow me, because my computer sounds like it's about to take off. So if you see the camera jump up, then you know what happened. All right, so let me close up Bob. So Kit, did it work for you? Did you get a chance to actually try it? And did it work? Please let me know. Here we go. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Give it a second. Oh, here you go. All right. So now let's take a look at some code. So let's just take a look at the index HTML. So we'll just kind of go up really quickly. Okay. So pretty much your run-of-the-mill. Yes, it did work. That's awesome. So it's pretty much your standard run-of-the-mill HTML markup. As you can see, we have like the login container. Okay, hold on. It's scrolling very slowly. As you can see, like on line 26, we have our login container. And that is where you put in the username. And then once you put in the username, we hide that and then show the app-to-app container. So you can see that's where the link is to go to open up a new page where we entered in Bob. And then the markup, the input for the username, and then the button to call and the hang up. Now we initially hide the hang up button because there's no reason to have it. And then we have the status, which was showing things like answered, completed, stuff like that. And then here's the log container that showed all the different logs that we went through. All right, so pretty standard stuff there. Now let's take a look at index HTML2. Now this is the receive part. So this is where Bob is getting the information from that page. So, okay, here we go. So again, we have the login container. Okay, went too far. Oh man. So yeah, so we have the login container again. And then this time we just have a place where your username goes into that you're able to copy and paste it into the first page. And then just the answer and hang up buttons. And like before, hide the hang up, and we disable answer until the call comes in. Then we enable it so that you can answer the call. And then again, the status, where we put the things like if it was answered, hang up, stuff like that, and completed. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at the now our JavaScript on the client side. Okay, go to. Oh, also just to note, we brought in the client SDK right here. The Vonage Client SDK is right here on line 18. So we're bringing that in. We installed it into the application. You can bring it from a CDN. That works just as fine as well. But so right now we're just bringing it in from when we installed it on the back end. You can see that in our package JSON. Hopefully, if it loads. I clicked it. So here you go. So yes, you can see right there in our dependencies, the very last one is the, we're working on a new version, but for right now, it's the Nextmo client. It will soon be the Vonage client, but for right now, it's that one. All right, great. So let's take a look. So now that we know we have the client SDK, let's take a look at some of the JavaScript. So let's take a look at the index page, which is the one where it's initiating the call. Okay, so as you can see right here, we're instantiating, we're getting from the window object because it's loaded in the window object for the Nextmo client. All right, and we're calling it Vonage Client because that's what it'll be called. And then here, all the different. Now let's go to the part where we enter in the name, the username. And in this case, it was Alice. Oh, wow, my computer is going pretty slow here. Okay, here we go, I think. Oh, wow. Wow, okay. The computer does not like doing streaming. Here we go. So now we have that login form. We have an event listener on there, which is submit. So once you hit enter or the login button, this is what happens. We have the event.prevent default so that if you don't have that, the page will refresh. It's just a thing that's in browsers. So you put that so your page doesn't refresh. And I'm setting, I'm setting the error status to nothing. There's no error yet. And then, so this function, the post data. So I'm sending to my backend, which we'll show soon, our server.js. I'm sending to an endpoint get JWT, and I'm passing in for the username, the login form, the value that's coming that we entered in. So Alice, just in case. And then I'm awaiting the return information coming back from that. And if the code, like the status code, is not 200, I in the error status markup, I will put what the error is. Otherwise, we're going to go to setup, and then I'll go through that as well. And then what happens is I hide the login, and then I show the app container, which is where you put in the username to make the call. Okay, so look first at post data. And again, I was scrolling on the wrong window. Come on. Here we go. So now post data is just a fetch function. And I kind of just separated it out just in case if I need to make more. And so it's a post to that slash get JWT. And just saying the content type is just application JSON because we're sending JSON because it was the username. Remember, username is what we're sending in a JSON format. And we're stringifying it because you have to send strings through. And then we're returning the response. Great. So once I get that, then you saw that if there's not an error, then we send it to the setup, which is right here. And what we get back from the JWT, from get JWT, is the JWT and the conversation ID. The conversation ID, I use that. So we don't really need it for the voice application, but I did that for the logs. So I'm sending all that, all the information that's being sent to our event webhook. I'm just adding that to a conversation so that we can show that on the page in that logs section. So it's not needed. I just added it because I didn't want to have to look through the server logs or anything. I just kind of wanted to have everything right there on the page, just to kind of nicely put in formatted. All right. So then we're setting up everything. Hopefully it doesn't. Wow, it jumps a lot. So here's the setup function. I'm setting in the JWT and the conversation ID that I got back from the get JWT endpoint. And then we're setting up, so here again is we're setting up a new instance of the Vonage Client SDK. And so that's what this line is doing, line 40 is doing. So we're calling that client. Now remember, we just don't let any user run around our application, right? So we need the user to be able to log in and use the client to pass that along. So with the client, we already know the application ID because remember in the JWT that we showed earlier, application ID was part of what was sent into creating the JWT. So with the JWT, we know the user, we know how long it's going to last for, and we know the application ID. So we send that into the client SDK. It uses that to be able to pull your application and all the goodness that comes with the application you can use. Yeah, and then we get the actual conversation. Like one of the things we can do is get the conversation, and that's what I'm using to put the logs into. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, please let me know. All right, so we have the conversation. Now, what's pertinent to the actual application, the voice application, is that we have the call button. And that's what was showing up on the first person or Alice's page. You press the call button. You know what? Let me see if I can. I think I can do this side by side here without it messing up too much, maybe. Hopefully it's not too much for it. Oh, come here. Come here. All right. It doesn't want to do this. Okay. Oh, okay. That's not good. The beach ball showed up. All right. So when we click this login, we put in a name. Enter. What's happening in the back end is that sending a post message to the /get JWT with the username sent along. Then it comes back with the JWT and the conversation ID. Send that to the setup where it sets up the application. We log into it, as you can see right here. So we set up a client. We set up the client, and then we log into the client so that the app that comes back is for the user that's using it, which in this case is Alice. And then we get the conversation ID because, again, that's for the log section here. Has really nothing to do with the voice API application. It's just so it could print out the logs, and we'll see that also. Then, all right. So what we do is when we put in the username, the person we're going to be calling, and we hit call, this event listener happens with this click event. And then we do the prevent default again because we don't want to have a page refresh just in case. And so then we take the value that's in here, call that number. If it's not blank, then we go to the app.call server. And then we put in, well, we say number here, but it's the username, basically. And then we send it as a type app. All right. Later on, we'll see a different thing here. So call server is a function that's on the application that lets us know to, hey, we're going to create a call, and it's a type app, and we're going to send the username. And that should be username, but number, same thing. All right. Then we have different event listeners that we can listen for on the application. So on the app, there's the member call. And so that's when we actually have a connection, a call. And that's why the hang up button, we have an event listener there. So when we click, we can just hang up the call. All right. So this is when the call is in action, when this is actually happening. Now we have different statuses during the call, because you saw that log and it had all those different logs from the different statuses of the thing. So like when it started, what we're doing is we're hiding the call button and then showing the hang up button. So once the call has started, anytime there's a change in the status of the call, this event listener is fired on line 60. And then what we're doing is, I could probably use like a switch case for all this, but I kind of wanted to be explicit on like what each thing is kind of doing in its own right. So when the call is started, when its status has been set to started, we don't need the call button anymore. So we hide that and show the hang up button. And then when it's completed is a total opposite. So we hide the hang up button and then we show the call button to make another call. And then we also have other statuses such as unanswered, rejected, if it's busy, timeout, or if it's failed. And we kind of we show buttons depending on that status. And then here again, that same conversation that we spoke about before, it's not necessary to make the voice call happen. It's just to show the logs. And so as you can see here, there's a log event that I created. It's a custom event. You can learn more about that in the documentations. But I'm looking for any log events, and then I'm taking that and I'm adding it to the list here that shows up in the logs section. And that's pretty much it for the initiator of the call. Now let's talk about the receiver of the call. So let's, I think that's going to open in a new window, isn't it? Yeah, probably. Oh, I accidentally clicked on the screen share. It's going to be one of those days. Will that do anything? Copy link address. Please don't shut down again on me. Okay, let's just take a look at okay. Now let's take a look at Bob. Now it's all pretty much the same code. So again, a reference to the Nexmo client from the window object. And then we get more references to all the different elements in the HTML page. Again, we have the same post data, the fetch that we use to get things from the back end. And then the setup as well here. Now the setup is a little bit different because now we're not initiating the call. We're pretty much just listening for the call. So again, we have the client, which we get from the Vonage client. And then we log in now, except it's for Bob, the second person who's receiving the call. And so this way, this app is in reference to what Bob can do in the application. And so what we can do is we can listen for the member call. So when the call is happening, when it's being initiated, we're setting the status to inbound app call and then click to answer, which you saw. And then what we're doing is once you click the answer button, we're answering the call. And then we also have the same call status changed. And then we're just hiding and showing buttons depending on the status, like before. All right. And that's pretty much the only differences as far as between sending and receiving. Now, what I separated these so that it could be a little bit more explicit on what each one is doing. But what might be a good like a good project to kind of extend is put them all together. So it's just one page. And then depending on, so that might be a good like exercise to kind of take this thing forward instead of having 2 pages. Cool. So now let's take so we just mentioned how we're making a call to the backend. As you can see here, it's a different call to the backend. Before it was get JWT for the person initiating it, and it's get JWT2 for the person receiving it. And let's take a look into the server code for that. And I almost did it again where I clicked in there. Okay, so now here at the beginning, we're just doing some server stuff. So we're setting up Express. We're making an instance of Express. We're calling that app. And then we're bringing in the SDK, the server SDK right here. And in our package JSON, you can see it being called right here. So it's this one here. All right. So we're just creating an instance of that. Now, what we want to do is be able to, on the server, log in. Just the same way we kind of did it in the beginning, like in the client side, we want to be able to create so that the server can do things also with the Vonage infrastructure. So that's what we're doing here. And we're logging in with the API key, the secret, the app ID, because remember, we need to know what application, and the private key. Now, all these things were generated in that setup script that we ran earlier when starting the project. So all that gets saved to your environment variables file, your .env file. All right. So now we're just saying, hey, we're going to use express.json. So for like, it's kind of like the replacement for body parser. For anybody familiar with Express, before, whenever you would send information, say, for example, in a request body, you would need like body parser to be able to work with that object that you send through, which is a string, but it needs to be turned into an object. So Express now has its own. So you don't have to use body parser anymore. You don't need that other dependency. You can just use what's in Express now. So that's what's happening on line 17. And then we're just setting up our static files. So the public, so that's why all our files can be called from the public. And then we're going into the node modules to be able to get the Nexmo client since we installed it. Remember, again, you can always use a CDN and you wouldn't have to do that, but we're just using it from the actual application that when we installed it through the package JSON. All right, so that's in reference to that. Now, let's take a look at the getJWT endpoint. Come on, please don't mess up. Where are you going? Give it a second. So here's the getJWT2, and here's getJWT right here on line 109. So remember, we've made a call from the front end to the /getJWT and getJWT2, depending on whether it's the person starting the call or receiving the call. All right, so getJWT is the person starting the call. So as you can see here, we sent in the username in the body of the request. So that's where I'm just console logging that here just to make sure it's what I need. And so I'm setting the user to the username. I'm actually sending it off to the create user, because remember, the user is the person using the application or the person that's trying to visit your attraction or your application. So we need to create the user using the username. And remember, that has to be unique. So we'll see how I make it unique coming up. All right. See right here on line 25, this is where we're creating the user. So we're sending in the username. We're calling that display name because there's display name and username. And so display name, you can use that to show. So it would show like Bob or Alice. But then the username is what needs to be unique. So as you can see, I'm taking that name. I'm taking the display name that we sent in, that the person typed in to the input box to log in. And I'm just adding the timestamp onto it. Cool. Oh, by the way, sorry, I don't have the, if you have any questions, please let us know. I don't have the chat open here. I think it's this one. Hopefully everyone's following me. All right. Yeah, the heat and the humidity. Yeah, finally took down the computer. I think that's probably what it is. All right. So, all right. Hopefully everything is going great still. All right. Cool. So now what we're doing is we're creating the user. I'm trying to ensure that it's unique by adding a timestamp. Great. Now what we're doing is we're going to use the server SDK to create the user. Now you could do a request to an endpoint, but for me, I don't have to worry about all that stuff. I'm just going to use the server SDK. And since it's Node, we have the Node SDK, so I wanted to use that. And so you can see here, we're taking the Vonage users create, and we're passing in both the name and the display name. And then what we get back is the actual the username. So we're sending that back to the getJWT endpoint. Eventually you'll see that. Come on, load. Oh, wait, no, wait, come on. Please load. And, oh, here we go. All right, so now we have our user, right? Then for me to be able to put those logs, that's where I create the conversation. And then I get the ID for the conversation, and I put that into the process of the server so it remembers it while it's running. And then I'm creating a member for that conversation. Now, remember, this is not needed for the voice application. It's just so that I can print out the logs. All right. Cool. And then, so then we create the member. Cool. All right. Now, what we're doing here is that we're going to so with the create the member, we need to know the conversation and the user ID. So in the create member, I do that. But again, it's extraneous. It really has nothing to do with, you can look more into it, but it has nothing to do with the actual voice API. So I'm gonna kind of just skip over that. You can take a look at it in the code as well. So now remember, we have the user, but the user just can't do whatever they want on our application. So we need a JWT, because remember, that's like your pass to be able to do things in your application. So that's what we're doing here. We're generating the JWT. And remember, it has to be unique. So that's why we're passing in the username, which is the display name that was typed into the login field. And I just added the timestamp to it just to kind of ensure that it was the same. Otherwise, you'll get an error saying, hey, this person is already user. So to go around that, what you can do is like you would have like your own login system. So whether it be like a password or email or something, and then that way you can verify it's the same user. But for right now, we don't have like any sort of login stuff. It's just anybody logs in, and that's why I want to make sure that they're as unique as possible. All right, hopefully that made sense. So then what we're doing is, so let's take a look at the generate JWT. Now, if you remember before, in the JWT, we should see our ACL, which it grants the permissions for the user. So here's our generate JWT. And then, so I'm using the Node SDK to generate the JWT. Again, if you wanted to, you can use, like you can make a call to an endpoint and do all these things and send headers and stuff. Me, I just want to be able to just, for me, it's a little bit cleaner to be able to do all this. So in that, I just need to send the application ID because, hey, what application of ours are we granting the user permission to do things in, right? And then we have the sub, which is the unique identifier. So it's going to be the display name with the timestamp, right? So that's what the sub is here. And then when it expires, I think I have this for like 24 hours, I think, or like 6 hours, something like that. This is where you decide how long you want the pass to be good for. And then here's the ACLs, the action control list. And it gives us the permissions that the user can have within our application. And for right now, we're just using all of them. And depending on your application, you can remove and only have what's needed. All right. And then we're going to send back the JWT. And then that goes back to the front end. And then that's used to log into the application. And that's how we're able to do all these things on the front end. So the back end helps with authentication, basically. And through the ACL, even like some authorization stuff. All right. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Now, that's for the person sending. Now, remember, we had get JWT2 for the person receiving. So now that we also, again, create the user because we need to make sure that that person is a user. And then what we're doing is we're not, since on the receiver, there was no logs, they don't need to be a member of the conversations because they're not printing out logs. Only the person sending is printing out logs. And that's why we did the create member. So like I said, to make the voice API work, you didn't need that part. All right. It's just to print out the logs. So I want to make sure that was clear. And so we create the user and then we generate a JWT for the user. We give them their pass to be able to do things in the application, and that returns back. Now, I believe it was Kit that was asking questions about the answer webhook. So in the webhook, so let me go back to the slides. Now, when we ran that node setup.js, we automatically, let me present. Okay. All this, cool, demo time. All right, so now here, if you go to your applications in your dashboard, or if you go to dashboard.nextmo.com/applications, you'll see all the different applications that you have through Vonage. Now, if you find the one for this application, you'll see, as in this screenshot, there's your webhooks for your voice application. There's the answer and the event, right? And we set that through the setup script when we started the project. Cool. So just to let you know, so Vonage knows your webhooks that you want to be able to send the answer and the event hooks to. So that corresponds to your webhooks here, as you can see here. All right. Now, when you initiate the call, remember, Vonage doesn't know what you want to do with that. So it's going to ask your answer endpoint. Say, hey, I got this request to make this call. What would you like me to do with it? And so remember, that's where the NCCO comes in. It's the instructions to let Vonage know how to handle the call. So what we're going to tell it is that, hey, we want you to say, please wait while we connect you to, and then the person, right? So that's the talk action. And then we have another action to follow that, which is the connect action here on 151, line 151. And then, all right, cool. So where do you want me to connect to? So we're going to use that type app, because remember, it's from one application to the next. And then we're going to use that same user ID, which is unique. Remember, so that's how we know who to connect to. Cool. So that's the one time. So for Kit, that's what's happening. So it's just the one time to initiate it. So every time you initiate a call, that's what happens, or like a transfer or what have you. So that's what happens with that. Now, for the logs, all the different things that are happening are sent to your event webhook. And so as you can see here, that's what we have going on here. My computer. Okay. So yeah. So you can see I'm just taking the log ID from the conversation that we created before. So we're creating a new event on the conversation. Which conversation? The one that we created when we logged in as Alice, or the person that's initiating it. And now the type is going to be that log event that we saw earlier on the front end. So that way, my front end is listening for a custom event called log_event. And so that way I know it's like, oh, okay, this is information I'm looking for. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me show this in the log in the front end. And so I just say it's from the system, and then whatever the information is, I'm sending that in the body. Cool. And then that's pretty much it. That's all for the app to app. Any questions? Cool. So now we kind of have like a foundation. Now, all we're going to do is add in a phone for the next two. Okay. So this is from web to web. So it gives us like a nice little baseline to build from. Now we're going to either go from web to phone or from phone to web. All right. So we're adding in a whole nother actor here, which is an actual phone. All right. We're all ready? Cool. All right. So brings me back to here. Up next now, we're going to make a phone call from the browser, not to another web user, but to an actual phone. All right, cool. Sounds good. So remember, we're going to, let me put the link so you can remix it for yourself, so you can play around with it. Copy this link, paste it into this chat. So yeah, so hopefully, Kit, that was a good explanation for you. Now, let's go on to from the web to an actual phone. And The first time I did this, I was amazed. And when it worked, I was like, oh, wow, from the web. Because like the web is like a virtual thing. It doesn't feel real, right? But then to have my phone ring, I was like, oh, wow, it just made it so real for me. So hopefully you'll have the same feeling. So now we're going to, again, do the same setup. So let me close this out because I don't think my computer can handle like multiple tabs open. All right. So we're reconnecting. So now, all right. So you should have something that looks like this. Again, we have a link to the actual tutorial on the website at developer.nextmo.com. So that will help you run it locally on your machine. But like I said, we want to try to do all this. Imagine if I was trying to run all this on my machine while trying to stream. We saw it happen when I just tried to stream. So that's why I kind of like to try as much offset stuff to the web as much as possible when I'm doing other things. Cool. So now we're going to do the same thing as before. So you should see here your tools. They should be like errors. So remember, what we have to do is go to tools, go to terminal, type in once it loads. Eventually. But you're probably going a lot faster than mine, but you want to type in the node space setup.js. And then that will run the setup script. And then you just put in, remember, you just put in your API key, your API secret, the name of the application, and then I think that's pretty much it. And it'll just run through and create everything that we need on the back end. It'll set up things like it'll create your application. It will also set up all the webhooks and things for you so that we don't have to do that manually. All right. So hopefully, let me know if you got that worked out and it's working for you. And then if everything works, you should be able to just put in a name. Let's go with Alex again. And just like with the app to app, it's just pretty much instead of a username, it's just a phone number. So it's pretty much identical to the other one. And so, and this is being recorded, so I don't know if I want to put my phone number out there. So we're just going to pretend we put the phone number in there. So you put your phone number in there, and you let me know if it worked for you. Because it's just going to be the same information before as like with the logs and stuff before. And I didn't think like, oh yeah, this is going to be recorded and the phone number may not want to have that out on the internet just like that. So yeah, so let me know if you got it to work for you or if you ran into any issues. Because again, I'm big on feedback and I can't like see your faces to see if you're confused or anything. So yeah. Hopefully you're getting along okay with it. Or maybe just in like awe, like when the first time I did it and I was like, oh man, this is amazing. This is great. So we're going to like step through the code again to kind of show the differences. And it's very minimal. Like it's once you kind of get it, then it doesn't take much to be able to add other things, which is great. And then you can change like the behavior through the instructions, which are the NCCO, which is amazing. So you can do some cool things like while you are working on that. Like for example, we had someone that wanted to be able to. So there's an agent that calls a customer on the phone, right? And then they wanted to be able to pass that person on the phone to another agent. And so the way it came up with was that, all right, we're going to take once the agent one calls a customer on the phone, we're going to make that connection, and then we're going to put them into like a conference call. And then from there, we can have the agent 2 jump in and be able to, and everybody can talk, and then agent 1 can leave, and agent 2 and the person can continue speaking. And then, and on top of that, we could record the whole conversation and then be able to download that later. It's amazing the type of stuff you can do. And then if you want to even further, you'd be able to take that recording and maybe put it into like an AI situation, a solution, and then get like a transcript or maybe even like the sentiment to see how that call went. Like it's amazing the stuff you can do. And hopefully that gives you some ideas of maybe something that you can create or what have you. And like I say, we're always here to help out with that stuff. So yeah, so hopefully you're amazed at being able to call yourself. So let's take a look at the code that was needed to make that happen. So again, let's just start off with the index.html, just show the actual markup of the elements, because HTML is important. Don't let anybody tell you anything differently. HTML is important. And so here we go, bam, bam, bam. We have the, wow, it's jumping around. Wow. Okay, so we have the app-to-phone demo you see there. And then again, whenever I create these things, I like to try and keep things similar so that there's not much more to, like, yo, okay, I saw it once. I saw it here. Pretty much it's the same thing. Don't need to worry too much about it. So same login container with the username and then the submit button. Cool. And then the error status, if there's any errors. And then we have the app to phone container, which has what you see here to the right. So call phone from app. Then we have your phone number. And then we have the input, which you put in your phone number. Now, I probably should have said it before. The phone number, it's using E.126 standard, which means no extra like plus signs, no parentheses, nothing. Just the country code and your number. No extra anything else. So like for the US, it's 1 area code and then your phone number. The UK, I think it's like 44 or something like that. Whatever the actual country code and number. All right. So let us know if you had any issues with that, but that could be a reason. If it didn't work, that could be a reason why. So it's just country code and number. All right, great. So then that's that. Cool. So let's go and take a look at the JavaScript next. All righty. Now, a lot of this should look familiar because that's one cool thing about using the same SDK. A lot of the code is going to look the same and just a few tweaks to give it like a different functionality, which is cool. So a lot less like headaches to work with. So we try to make it as like non-complex as possible. You don't have to think a lot about what's going into it to make a change. So we try to keep it as level and similar as possible for you. So again, so we have all the different references to the different things here. Again, with the function to make the call, we have where we're going to actually do the setup again. Yeah, so we have the same setup basically with the buttons, except now it just says, hey, see, and I think what happened was like I copied and pasted that code because it's so similar that see, it says number here instead of it should have said username before. So hey, you can always change that. That's a small tweak you could always make just to kind of test to make sure you understand everything. But yeah, so here we're just taking the number, and then if it's not blank, and then if you try to submit it when it is blank, it's gonna say, hey, please enter your phone number. Just a quick check. All right, and then we have the thing again for the member call. As you can see, again, it's just called that hang up, just like with before. Because remember, it's all calls. So we abstract all the different types of things happening, whether it be from browser to browser or browser to phone. To you, it's just a call, so you don't have to worry about all that. And then we do the same thing for the call status changed. So all that is pretty much the same. There's the stuff for the logs. Here's where we're getting the JWT. Cool. And then when we hit the call button, which is where are you? Now, check this out. So this is the difference. And because remember before, so on line 48, previously it was call server, the username, and app, right? That was to make a browser to browser call. Now, when you want to call a phone, like an actual phone, then we put in the number, and by default, it's going to make a phone call. You could put a phone in quotes, but by default, if nothing is there, we just think you want to make a phone call. And that's it. So that's like the only change, to be able to do from browser to browser to phone. Kind of amazing, right? Everything else pretty much the same, and it's just that. So that I don't know about you, but for me, that's amazing. So yeah. All right, cool. So that's that. Now let's take a look at the server, which is pretty much the same. So here we go, server. All right, so pretty much initializing the Vonage reference. So for the SDK, for the server SDK, we're doing that. Like we did before, we create the user, creating the conversation for the logs. We're creating a member for the logs. Here we're generating the JWT, just like before. The get JWT, just like before. Same thing. Now, here, you see with the webhook answer, we're still saying, so when we do that call server, that lets Vonage know like, hey, we want to make a call. Cool. So when that happens, it knows your webhook. I'm like, oh, let me get some information on what to do with this request that I just got to make this call. Because I don't know, there's no instructions that come along with it. So let me go to this answer webhook and see if there's any actual instructions on what I should do with this request that came in. And that's where the NCCO come in. Remember, because that's the instructions that tell Vonage what to do with that request that we created from the front end. Now we're asking Vonage to say, please wait while we connect you. So a little voice will say that. And then we're going to do another connect. But then as you can see at this time on line 135, whereas previously it was app, now it's phone. So we're explicitly telling Vonage, hey, this is a phone call. So we need you to connect to this phone number, which is an actual phone and not a user, right? And so that's pretty much it. And then we just have the event webhook, and that's it. You're making phone calls from the browser. Amazing. I just, to me, I'm big on communication. And so all the stuff, so being at Vonage is like a dream, because the stuff that you can, like being able to communicate with people through the internet, it's amazing. It's not just, we do text as well, but being able to speak to somebody or to see them like that's just wow for me. So, all right. So hopefully, so how was that explanation? Did everybody get everything? Do you see how showing from browser to browser gave like a good foundation to build on top of, like, okay, so not just sending to another browser, not sending a call to another browser, but to a phone, it's just a few changes. So cool. Hopefully that worked out for y'all. Now we're going to go into the final one. And so instead of initiating the call from the browser to the phone, we're going to initiate the call from the phone, and so it can be answered from the browser. So thank you very much, Rutam. Thank you very much. So yeah, absolutely. Great. See, this makes me feel good. So like, please, like, I'll have all my information on how to reach out. I definitely want to see what you build. If you run into any issues, feel free to reach out. All right, especially if it's JavaScript. If it's not JavaScript, I'll point you in the direction of someone else that could help you. I'll try, but you know. All right, so now we're going to go and flip it and do from phone to the browser. But the thing is, when you're on your phone, you can't just call, like you don't type in www.mywebapp.com into your phone dialer and make the call, right? So there's another little level of a little tiny hurdle that you need to get over, which is to get a phone number so that you can call from your phone to a phone number, and then that phone number will pass it on to the connection onto your web application, right? So we just need that little intermediate, because until we're able to just call directly from our dialers to a website, we're going to need that intermediate step where we need a phone number. And luckily, Vonage allows us to be able to rent phone numbers. So this is pretty cool. So what we're going to do is, and I'm interested in seeing how this works, because this next script, it will actually purchase the phone number for you. You just need to put in your country code. So it's just one more step within the setup. So I am going to paste that here. Cool. So now remember, it's going to ask you for your API key and API secret. And remember, you can get that from the dashboard.nextmode.com. All right. As you can kind of see like a pattern here where you'll need your API key and API secret. Unless you're doing it like locally, I believe the CLI will remember that for you. So when you create stuff through your locally on the CLI, you'll be able to skip this step, but we're just doing it on the web. So, all right. So now let's take a look at the final application. Now remember, for you, since you're just remixing it, you'll have an error at the bottom left. And so you just click tools again, and hopefully this will load at some point. Thing is with glitch, since it's basically free, you can act like it puts your application to sleep, so it doesn't continuously run. And so after a while, it needs to like restart and stuff. So you can actually do a thing where you pay and you get it boosted, and so it stays awake longer. But you know, we're just starting out here, so we're just kind of playing around here. All right, so like I said before, to set up your application so it works properly, just go to Tools. And again, I really have got to stop accidentally clicking on the screen share as if it's the actual page. Yeah. All right. Cool. And then so you go to terminal. You're going to type in node space setup.js. It's going to ask you for your API key, API secret. I think then it asks you what would you like to call your project. And then I believe it asks you for your country code. So that way, on our end, we can search for a local number to you from the country code. And then it will automatically buy the first one. So, yeah, let me know how that works out for you. Yeah, and while we're doing that, let me show you, because I haven't showed you the actual setup script yet. So let me show you that while while you all are setting up. So setup script. Because I got tired of having to, because like in our tutorials, like if you want to run it locally, certain things like setting up the JWT you do manually, and different things you will do manually through the CLI. I kind of wanted just to like automate all that stuff, like all the stuff that's needed. So I just did it on the browser, and so for me, it kind of speeds things up for me. And plus, I can say, hey, it worked in the browser and not just like on my local machine. And I'll be able to send this to someone else so they can take a look at it as well. So just like I did with y'all. All right, so here we go. So FS is the file server, I think it is. Oh, file system. So that allows you to be able to write to the file system on the server. So, and then we have it's the Vonage server SDK, but right now it's under Nextmode. There's a Vonage one coming. And so, cool. So here we go. Oh, and I just have like this, a variable that we're going to, once we get all the credentials, we're going to create an instance of the Vonage application so that we can do things like create and buy numbers and stuff like that. All right. So here we go. This is all the information that pops up. Then we ask for, hey, what's your API key? You answer that. And then it's going to ask you for your API secret. And then what do you want to name. Oh man, it jumped on me. And then what you want to name the app. And then here's where we by the number, we set the country code, and then it gives you the phone number for it. And then that's all this pretty much does here. So you see set app name, set country code, by the number. So yeah, so you see it says, hey, so if you're in the US, the country code is US. If you're in the UK, GB for Great Britain. I'm not sure. I saw some people from India. I'm not sure if it's maybe IN. Let me know, because I'm curious, because I've never purchased a number in India before. So let us know if it worked out for you. And then, yeah, so that's all I was doing then. You can see here, so I'm using that same reference to the SDK because we log in, like we set up the SDK earlier. My browser is, yeah, okay, never mind. But we set it up using your credentials. And then, yeah, and so you can see here we go. Like when we're creating the application, I'm setting up a new instance of the server SDK with API key and a secret. And then from there, I can create the application. And then the same thing, I'm able to buy the number and also update the number, because buying the number is cool. That's one part of the step. But then we need to link the number to the application that you just created. And that's what that update number does. And yeah, so feel free to kind of like dig around there. And here is where we're doing all the webhook stuff. So that's all that's happening. Cool. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the stuff that's happening behind the scenes. And then here we're writing everything to that .env file, so that your server code can have access to that. All right, cool. Hopefully that was a good enough explanation. If not, again, please let me know in the chat room, or you can ask, I guess, in the Q&A as well. Let me check the Q&A. Anything happening in the Q&A? Nothing yet. Cool. All right. Maybe, see, and I never think like, oh, I'm doing an amazing job. So maybe, hopefully, you're just picking it up really well. So hopefully that's what's happening. Again, ask me any questions that you may have, please. All right, cool. So remember, we needed to add that extra step of purchasing and linking a phone number. Yes, Kit. Setup.js has saved me so much time instead of having to do this over and over again. So yeah, so it's really cool. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. Awesome. And thank you, Rutam. Did I say that right? Rutam? Thank you very much. All right, cool. Again, thumbs up and cool. All right, great. So now we have the phone number that we need so that we can call from our phone the number. Now we just need to take from the number that we just purchased and link to our application. We just need to tell Vonage now that, hey, we need you to go to this application and it'll handle all that. All right. And as you may think, yes, NCCO will be used in there. All right. So now let's take a look. Again, HTML is very important. So we'll take a look at the HTML for it. Oh, and then you can also, I'm not going to make the phone call through my thing. Wait, no, could I? I think I could. Yes, I will actually make a phone call to show you how it works, because it's not going to leak anything. It's just going to be the number I purchased, which I can always end. So cool. So let's go with Alice again. And now when you log in, it should have the number that you purchased and linked to there. So I'm going to call that number now. So it is, well, I called it before, so it should be in my list here thing. Did it work? Oh, I said it right. Okay, nice. Cool. So yep, this is the number here. Let me see if I can.
Please wait while we connect you.
Did you hear the voice? And so now you can see it says I'm receiving a call. Now I can answer or reject it. And you can see the logs are being filled up. And then answer. And then Hello. Hello. So I don't know if you can hear from the phone as well, but it works. And then we can just hang up. And it ended the call. I don't know. For me, this stuff is like magic to me. And even when I know what's happening behind the scenes, still like magic. It's still so cool. All right. So that's just a demonstration of how it works. Great. Oh, okay, cool. Yes. Let's go through that. Let me explain that a little bit better. So cool. So so we're going to start off at the HTML. Yes, I will get to that kit for you. Yes. Thank you for your question. All right. So pretty much all the same information. You have the login container where you put in the username, and then we have this time the phone to app container, and it just has this stuff here. Cool. So yeah, it's basically like the same thing like before. Let us go to the JavaScript. Cool. And then again, as you can see, we make a reference to all the stuff there. Again, with the same post, the post function, so that we can make a call to the back end. Then we have the same setup stuff here. And then, yep, cool. We're answering the call. So here, there's no initiating the call. All we're doing is receiving. So there's like nothing to enter in any phone number. So we just have like an answer, reject, and hang up button. So when we have the incoming call, so when we have this member call happening, we can either answer or reject. And then, when the status is changed, then we just show and hide the different buttons. Because when you're in the call, you can't reject the call or answer the call. So it's only hang up. And so that's what all this stuff does here. Let me see. Yeah, that's pretty much. And then here's the logging events. So remember that on the conversation, because remember, this is, you don't need the conversation to be able to do the voice stuff. There's conversations, but that's being handled behind the scenes. You can create your own conversations if you want to use them yourself, right? So now I'm using the conversation not for anything to do with the voice application, but just to show the logs. So as you can see right here, anytime there is a log event, the conversation that I initiated from the back end, so I initiated the ID. I created the conversation on the back end, which we'll see in the server. And then I take that conversation ID, I pass that to the front end. And so that here, I can use that conversation ID in the setup to get the conversation that was created in the back end. So the back end does the creation. The front end does like the getting of the stuff that was created in the back end. So because you want to try not to create too many things in the front end because it's not necessarily like a secure place. Whereas the server is a more secure environment. So that's why a lot of the creation and like the authentication and the generating of the JWT stuff happens in the server. Because the browser is public and people can do all sorts of things in the browser. So we want to kind of like offload certain sensitive things to the server since it's a more secure environment. So that's why we create the conversation on the server and like we generate the JWT on the server and then we just pull it in from the front end so we can use it. So we're getting that conversation for the logs that was generated on the back end, and we're getting it. We passed in the conversation ID to the front end, and then we're using because we remember that application, that app has been granted access through the JWT to do things on the app. So you logged in basically to the app. So you're saying this user is doing this on the app, and we're allowing them to do certain things. And one of those things is to get the conversation by the conversation ID that was created and sent from the back end. Hopefully that made sense. And so that's the conversation there. So I have the conversation and all its powers. And one of those powers is to be able to listen for events. And so I created that log event from the event webhook, which we will see. I will get to that when we get to the backend. So remember, the log_event is a custom event that I created so that the conversation knows, all right, because there's a lot of stuff that happens on the event. And I only wanted certain things. So then I tag them with a log_event, like tag. So that way I just get those things out of the stream of data that's coming. And then from there, these are the one of my favorite HTML tags, because HTML is powerful, is the details tag, which is amazing. So that it gives you like a little drop down just from details. And then summary is just the timestamp, which is what you're showing here. And the log details are all the stuff that come back from the endpoint. Amazing. All that just in details. It does all that for you. It's amazing. HTML is super powerful. Don't let anybody tell you different. All right, cool. So for Kit, so that's what's happening on the front end. All right. So we're taking the conversation that was created on the back end, and we're listening for certain events that I create, some custom events from the event webhook, and then pass that into the conversation. And then so the front end can now listen for those events and then display them with the details tag in the log section. All right. So now, so as you can see, nothing much has really changed because this is just receiving the call. So there's nothing where you need to initiate anything. It's just all receiving. So now let's talk about how all that is working on the back end. All right, cool. So we're on the back end now. Again, same stuff. We're setting up Express, setting up the app for Express. We're setting up the Vonage stuff. We're using our keys and things that were saved to your .env file through the setup JS that we did earlier to start everything. Cool. Some stuff here. Oh, I added this, the HTML, because you see this phone number here. I passed that along. So once you log in and you go to that page, where are you? It's the / here we go. So you see, I passed in the phone number, which was saved in your .env file from the setup that we did earlier to get everything working. You can see right there. Cool. All right, so that's why this phone number shows up here. All right, cool. All right, so now it's all the same thing. Generate the JWT, same / get JWT. Again, so here we're creating that conversation that the front end is getting to be able to listen to those log events. So this is creating the conversation. Again, not needed for the Vonage voice API stuff, but just so that we can show the logs, right? So we're creating a conversation just for that. And then with that, I get a conversation ID, right? So I'm saving that into like the memory of the server as logs_ID. And then what we're doing is so that the person on the web page can see the conversation, they have to be a member of the conversation, right? So that's why we need to create the member. So the member is a part of the conversation. So it's the user, it's their membership to the conversation. All right, cool. And then we generate the JWT. We return that along with the member and the conversation ID. Got it. Cool. So now here's the answer. So now when you call that phone number that you purchased through the setup, Vonage knows that's our number. That's Vonage's number. So it's all right, cool. I know this number. Let me see if it's linked to an application. And remember, through the setup, we link it to our application that we created in the setup. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. I know it goes to this application because of the application ID. Fine. So now, oh, hey, there's this webhook. So let me go to this webhook, the answer webhook, to get the instructions on what to do with this incoming phone call from my actual phone, right? So there's a lot of steps there. So from the phone call, from the actual phone, to the number that we bought, the Vonage phone number. We know that's our number. So then we look up the application that it's been linked to, and then we can see the webhook for the answer endpoint. And so we know to send a request to that endpoint so that we can get the instructions that are the what? NCCO. That's right. And that tells Vonage what to do with that actual request, which is the phone call from the phone. So here is, as you can guess, the NCCO with the instructions to tell Vonage what to do. And it may look familiar because it's the same thing as with the web app to web app. Because remember, instead of the web app initiating it now, it's the phone. And so, but the person receiving it is still the web app. So that's why the NCCO is the same as with the one from web app to web app. All right. So as you can see here, when you heard it on the phone, it spoke and said, please wait while we connect you. So that's what caused that. Is this here, this action. Right? Cool. And then once it says that, then it connects us. And so this is where it goes from a phone number to your web application. And it's just like 4 lines of code. So it's a connect action. And we're saying it's from, which is sent through the request. So that's the phone number that's calling. That's the from. And then where's it going to? See, it's a type app. And then the username, which is unique to the user that logged in. Hopefully that's makes sense. Please let me know. So that is how Vonage knows to route that phone call started from a phone to a phone number that's a Vonage phone number to the web application that we just created here. All right, great. Now, like Kit was asking for, here is the event webhook. And this is where all events are happening. So there's a lot of different events happening between all that stuff. But I just wanted certain ones to be able to show in the logs, right? So that's what happens here on the event webhook. So what we're doing is we're creating a custom event on the conversation using the Vonage Vonage Server SDK. So I love how things are named also because it just kind of makes sense, right? So we're creating an event on a conversation using the Vonage Server SDK. Now we need to know, well, which conversation do you want to create the event on? And that's where, remember when we created the user, when we created the conversation in the get JWT, where's get JWT? Here we go. No, it's generate. Here. So remember, we saved process.env.logs_ID. That's a conversation ID that we created when the user logged in. And so here it's the same one here, same value. And the type is a custom event. We're calling that log_event. And then we're just saying it's from the system because we need that to be able to create a member at the setup. So that it knows where it's from. It's not null. We kind of require that. And then whatever the event is that's coming from Vonage, that's what's in the body. And I just send that. And then from there on the front end that we saw where the conversation.on log_event, that listens for that event that we're creating here. And that's pretty much everything. So no problem, Kit. I'm glad. Hopefully that explanation was great. So hopefully that worked out for you and everything. And so any questions? Because we're pretty much at the end and we have like 15 minutes left. So sorry again for the computer meltdown and stuff, but we're back. We were able to make it through everything. And so, so we have the wrap up. So any final questions, comments? Remember, everything that you need to dive into deeper is at developer.nextmo.com. Feel free to reach out to us on Twitter. We're at Vonage Dev, and my personal one is Lifelong Dev. And then, and then another shameless plug, because again, I make random things. So every week on Sundays, I do like a live online study group thing. So it's at untilit.works. And that it is whatever you want to bring. So the idea is to be able to set aside time every week to be able to work on a project that you've been meaning to work on. And so just by setting that time and working on it little by little, it kind of adds up. And so I'm just kind of having like this big online study group thing. And so you can come in, and if you have questions, you can help each other and stuff. It's pretty cool. So yeah, so I'm going to post links to all this stuff here in the chat so that you can check it out at your leisure. And yeah, and like that thing says, thanks. Thank you very much.